Hello and welcome to Sharing Our Cultures. This is the place where you get to meet amazing individuals from diverse cultural backgrounds who are making a difference in our province. Joining me today is Haley Victoria Pudan, a community development and outreach worker. Hello and welcome to Sharing Our Cultures. Joining me now is Haley Victoria Pudan. Welcome, Haley, to Sharing Our Cultures.
Thank you, Loidetta.
Yeah, I'm so delighted to have you here today, and lots of information I think we're going to be able to glean from you. So maybe we can start off with, how did you come to be in this province?
I actually came here to help transition my mother. She wanted to be a first-time homeowner, and she was also having declining health. So it was her dream to age in place on an island because it helped remind her of when she married my father and lived in Trinidad, which is an island nation in the Caribbean. So it was just kind of a romantic ending to her life's journey.
Okay, and she chose Newfoundland?
Yes, because she said she wasn't going to lose her Canadian benefits.
Okay.
So she needed a Canadian island. So there's
right.
few to choose from, and Newfoundland just happened to be where she decided to be.
Great. So what have you been doing since you came and settled her in?
Well, I've enrolled in MUN, and I have been studying political science and trying to minor in sociology. I've been, helping my daughter try to access youth activities, and I've been trying to find my way, with like volunteerism or different opportunities, and that's been a little bit difficult because of the pandemic and Snowmageddon, and I moved here in 2019, so it's just kind of been back-to-back different little delays.
All right. So I know you've always been in community development, you've done outreach work, so give us a little bit more about that.
Well, previously I lived in Brampton, Ontario, and I had volunteered or did contract positions, and my population that I dealt with was the homeless population. So from, my academic, my professional, my volunteer, it was always about like environmental scans and trying to capture the pulse of the community, as well as focusing on, the needs and the self-directed narratives of the marginalized population. So every community development outreach worker has a niche or a passion or, the contract position that you're put into. But the main thing was to always try and find the people and empower their voices and amplify it for, system navigation or to create workshops or resources or gain grants. So that's what I usually focused on, was fundraising and grant writing.
Okay. So how did that play out once you arrived here in Newfoundland?
Once I arrived here, it was actually very different. One, I had like no professional or volunteer experience here. And again, with the timing of everything, they weren't necessarily taking on volunteers. Everything was kind of up in the air. But at the same time, I found that, for even like job interviews, it's like, oh, you have no Newfoundland experience. Or, oh, you come from the mainland. So that's when I started to kind of wonder, like, what does this mean? So I instantly noticed that there was some sort of apprehension or mistrust, or in some cases favoritism, because I had that experience or perspective. So from there, I pretty much just kind of backed out of trying to find a volunteer position. I've backed out of, trying to find employment, and I decided to try and like upgrade my skills with different certifications, or, just trying to learn about the province and the social dynamics, and because I do know I'm in a different place. But at the same time, it was just also identifying like systemic gaps, and it was usually towards like youth. And that's kind of how I transitioned from my previous experience with homelessness initiatives to kind of like the youth perspective.
Okay, that is surprising, considering that you were coming from a Canadian province to another Canadian province. Because usually when we come from, say, Africa or Asia, we're told that you don't have any Canadian experience, so you don't get employment. But you were coming from another province in Canada.
Yes. And the funniest part too was sometimes friendly or for information's sake, they kind of want to know, well, where were you really from? Or where are you, like when did you come to Canada? And for me, yes, I was born abroad, but I came to Canada age 4 or 5 years old in 1989. I studied all of my academics here in Canada. My mother's Canadian white, my father's West Indian from Trinidad and Tobago. So it's kind of like, once they get that other background information, it became like another layer of either hesitation or some cases admiration. But it was more leaning towards kind of like, oh, like there's this kind of a hesitation, like they don't know how to approach it.
Why do you think that's so?
Well, some openly admit that, the province itself hasn't had too many people of color, or, they worked, some people disclose like they worked in other provinces, and like they come back here and they're like, yeah, we know some people are closed-minded. So again, I'm told all these different like validating reasons or excuses, and I really don't know what that is other than the lack of exposure, like the lack of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like there's no experience with it, and if I'm that first encounter, like just as I'm hesitating now, other people are also hesitant towards me. So yeah, the more they understand if I'm diverse, which I sometimes don't want to divulge, but then you're considered rude, or you're ignorant, or you're, oh, we're just friendly folk, we just always talk. And it's just like, well, I'm trying to fit in, so then what do I do? So it leaves me in a position of hesitation of how to answer that question without coming off as not nice.
Okay, right. And you mentioned your qualifications, which you had because you studied at York University in Ontario.
Yep.
So how were those qualifications accredited here? Like, were they accepted where you went, or what were the dynamics around that?
Yep. So for being a transfer student as well as a mature student, MUN, was great with that, with helping transition me with like credit to credit. They also helped me with accessibility services because I do have disability. So, I mean, the whole process that way was beautiful. On resumes, a lot of people are interested about my education, but same time, depending on what position I'm applying for, kind of like, how does it work? Or they say I'd be like a great addition, but they don't know where I'd fit. So, having a human rights and equity honors BA, being with additional certification for anti-racist research and practices, like it all sounds really good on paper, and then it's like, oh, but how does that, like materialize? How is that practical? And then when you try to explain it, that's when you have people kind of like, ooh, or oh yeah, we really need that. But then again, oh, we don't have the programming for that, we don't have the funding for that, and it still leaves me in like a whirlwind of, so what does this mean?
Right. So where were you working in Ontario? Could you be in that same position here now in the province?
That's what I'm not sure of, because when you cold call or cold email places and even like offer your resume or your tailored resume, or just ask about volunteer positions, or how do I, become employed at your institution, like, again, I know it was pandemic times, but it was just kind of like you don't hear back from anybody. So it's almost like you were ghosted. And a couple major places around here really liked what they saw on my resume and said I could be a valuable asset for their clients or guests. But it was just kind of like the timing, or, like my first aid certification expired the month before, so now I have to wait to be able to access that to recertify. So again, little logistics like that, where it's just the timing wasn't there. But it seems to be well received, my education. It's just I have not been able to practically use it yet.
Right, yeah, so there hasn't been the opportunity for you to work and use those skills and the training and the experience that you already have.
Yes.
What would be your dream position? Someone listening out there might have it.
Well, my dream position is just anywhere that, there's a marginalized population that maybe other people aren't empathetic for, or don't think they can, like, capture their attention or their voices. Because sometimes, there are certain topics that are sensitive, or you need a peer person, someone with lived experience. So I am, really passionate about homelessness initiatives. I'm really passionate about newcomers, situations, and workshop development, because that's what I think is what's empowering youth and communities, is education, knowledge sharing, multiculturalism and diversity, and not just to promote it, but to protect it, as well as to let people know, like, your local culture is very important, and just because other cultures are coming doesn't mean you lose your identity. So, you know, like tourism, anything like that, like someone with my qualifications can be, you know, a plethora of knowledge and have all sorts of unique views that maybe, you know, someone else with a different type of degree or field of study might not be able to comprehend, as well as having the identity of being mixed race and being in Canada for so long. You know, it was a struggle, but I survived it. And other people want to be helpful, but maybe they don't realize how they're not being helpful. So my ideal job is just kind of like anywhere for anything. The passion is there, and you know, it's the eager heart that's there as well.
Right, and that's what's needed when the province itself becomes more culturally diverse and employers are looking for someone with your knowledge and your experience to be able to embrace diversity within their workforce, to make everyone within that workforce feel that no matter where they're from or what language they speak or what the religious background, whatever is the area of diversity, that they are going to be welcome.
Yes, and that's kind of the thing that shocks me sometimes is like even back in, you know, Ontario, was just kind of like how people don't realize that the workplace, it is your second home, although you don't want transference, but like it still needs to be a safe place. It still needs to have, you know, some sort of accountability. It still needs to identify when there's microaggressions taking place and not just be dismissive or perpetuating a culture of silence. And that's what I've been finding very interesting since moving here, is that seems to be what I've been encountering.
Right. These microaggressions maybe more so than outright racism?
Yes, it's always more covert than overt. And it's always like when you mention anything about it, it's dismissed or excused, or are you really sure? So, you know, it's not something you like to have to admit to or ask, but like I've had to ask my daughter, or I've had to ask my partner, or I've had to ask even a random stranger in the store. I'm like, were they like just mad at me, or like, you know, just some sort of verification, like to know I didn't do anything to offend, and to know that you always have to watch your back, or you know, be overly accommodating, like, and you're not sure why someone's behaving a certain way, and you don't want to. You're hoping that it's not because they're racist or because they are biased, but they're blind to their own biasness. But it's just, at the end of the day, you do encounter it. No matter where you go, you'll encounter it. But then when you do voice it, that's where I found the difference, because it seems that it's a very touchy topic that no one seems to want to move forward with.
Okay, and we can't bring about change if we don't move forward with that. I really want to pursue that further, but we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back. We're going to dissect some of those microaggressions and see how we can bring about change for the best for everyone. We're going to take a quick break now, Haley, and Sharing Our Cultures will be right back. Welcome back to Sharing Our Cultures and our conversation with Haley. Haley, thank you for being here. And just before the break, we were talking about microaggressions. Maybe you can break that down for us, so maybe people who are not familiar with it may have a better idea, and maybe give us an example or two.
Yeah, so microaggressions are kind of like ways that people intend or unintentionally behave that then, you know, it's one way for one person, but different for someone else. So the easiest and quickest example I can give, because I'm a former cashier myself, it's kind of like when you're trained, you're supposed to greet every customer. And, you know, whether you smile or not, that's your business. But the thing was, you were just at least supposed to cordially greet them, hello. I found that a lot of times people might say hello to everyone in front of me or everyone behind me, and the only thing that was different about me was my skin tone. So again, it might sound like I'm assuming something, but it's like eyes wide and I'm smiling. It's like, hello. So if I give them the chance to say hello to me, and then if I say hello, they like look away or they have a sneer on their face. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they somehow have a bad feeling at this moment. Maybe they have stomach pain I don't know about, just something to try and be civil. Next thing you know, you're packing your groceries or you're shuffling off with your shopping cart, and then they're gabbing away with the next person. So it's just like, oh, so it must have been me. And kind of like that internalizes and impacts my mental health, but as well, if I had done something, that conversation was never shared. Or, you know, like I personally take it on where it's like, oh, could I do better? A lot of people aren't like that. A lot of people don't care. But because of my nature and like my training, I'm always looking at these things with an analytical eye. So, you know, if you are unsure when someone of a darker skin tone comes up, hi or hello is pretty universal. So if you're in like the service industry, hi is, you know, very empowering because you're addressing us. You're giving us identity and dignity by acknowledging we're even there. And, you know, this day and age where you have purchase power and you're a consumer, like that should be the ultimate way to have some sort of dignity or equality in that transactional relationship, that transactional moment. So it's like, no, if you can't say hi to me, but everyone else got a hello, what is that? Or, you know, just being excluded from things. You'll ask everyone else, but you won't ask the one colored person. Like, oh, I didn't think about to ask you, or oh, I didn't think you were allowed to. Again, other people's projecting assumptions, and then it somehow impacts another person in a bad way, or, you know, especially with mental health. And that's kind of where even my daughter, when she was in public schools, she's had a lot of different experiences, which you'll be speaking to her later on. And she, you know, having her come home to tell me what she's experiencing, meanwhile she's of lighter skin, or even facing mainlander discrimination. And like, how do you comfort your child? How do you comfort yourself? Because I have that lived experience as well. So, you know, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because it sounds petty to say, oh, because somebody didn't say hello to you. But when I go to that store every single day, and you know which cashier you can approach or can't approach, you know which one will talk to you, which one won't. Kind of like, that's when you start to hesitate with your, you know, public engagement. That's when you hesitate where you're going, or what time you're going, or what you're going to get. And it then starts to control your life because of your fear, or it controls your life because you don't want that harassment today. So little things like that, and it adds up, because it's not just the one store, it's another store. Oh, it's the person who had road rage against you. It's the person who called you a bad name while you're walking down the street. It's somebody who, when you're with your partner, asked them if they couldn't get, you know, a domestic lady. Like all these little comments, even if it's a joke, the person who's the butt of that joke is technically being backhanded insulted. And, you know, some people even want to be like, oh, let me touch your skin, or let me touch your hair. Now, I don't have the textured hair, but my daughter does. So now it becomes like a physical assault. And people don't think of it as that, but that is like a microaggression. You're not getting consent to touch something of my body or my clothing if I'm wearing my cultural dress. And it's just like, you can't just do that. Like, if you wouldn't approach another person to do that, why would you approach somebody of a different culture or a different, you know, religion, and want to technically grope them, is what it is. And kind of like, it's a whole spectrum. Like, there's like really innocent things that can be excused, and there's other things where it's more complex and more damaging. But the one thing I found in common with all these experiences is, if you call it out, or if you say something, you become the bad guy. And then it's now, okay, so what do I do to diffuse this situation now? So it's like, no matter what you do, whatever step you take, you're wrong. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And then when you're trying to ask for help, you're trying to ask for resources, you're trying to even just vent it to somebody, they want to be dismissive. Like, I actually went to talk to a psychiatrist for an intake session, and that was one of the things I had mentioned, how my mental health had went downhill since moving to Newfoundland because of the different instances of racism. Now, at this time, that doctor didn't really know my background or my studies or anything, but one of the things he mentioned to me is, are you really sure it was racism? And I said, oh, so now here I am defending myself to a person who's supposed to be helping me about my mental health. Meanwhile, it's almost like he was protecting or trying to enable what happened to me by telling me what it locally, culturally means to them. But it's, again, it wasn't right. But then he digressed when he heard all my education, and then he tried to, again, bring up like mainlander discrimination. So it's nice in a way that they had wanted to, you know, relate with me, but it's still not the same thing as being called a derogatory word, or being hypersexualized, or, you know, objectified because of what you wear or what your skin color is. So again, it's very innocent, but it can get very aggressive. And at the end, you don't know, you're paralyzed in that moment. with how to respond.
Okay, but we know that this does have an impact on adults and young people as well.
Yes, and with the young people too, because I went through it myself, but hearing my daughter say like, I don't know what to do, whether she was the target or she saw someone else, it's just like this, always this feeling of helplessness. And if you go voice your concerns to somebody, what's the accountability? What's the response? And, you know, being told, oh, we can't police what's, you know, taught at home. Oh, we can't help, you know, some kids are into that sort of thing when there's a swastika drawn in my daughter's book. Like, these are all pretty serious and could be at least addressed, but it's always like dismissed or swept under the carpet. And then, you know, self-identifying that I'm a Indigenous ally, and how there was some hatred against Indigenous people going on with slurs or slanders, then to be told like, oh, well, are you Indigenous? Well, I don't have to identify, but no, I'm not. Oh, so then why should it matter? So, like, no matter how it is you go about something, there's always this like reactive response. It's like they're scared of even knowing what racism is. I don't want to say you don't have to be racist to participate in racism, but racism goes both ways. It's different for different folks, but at the same time, it's an experience that you're being judged because of your skin, your, you know, your ethnicity, whatever that makes you different.
Yeah. So what do you think we can do to change this? Where should we be focusing our efforts and time, you know?
Well, as an individual, I think people should be more accountable if someone says something. You know, my mother is in care, and when she had a photo of my father, whenever I would come in to visit, it was turned around. My father is dark-skinned. So when I inquired, one of the regular staff had said, oh, sometimes some staff feel uncomfortable, so they turn his picture around. So just me asking the other staff member, I'm so thankful that they were so transparent. But same time, then they should be reporting that I had an issue, or, you know, just a general observation. And then for me, I did escalate it by, you know, approaching the institution and whatnot. But it's, again, whatever is the outcome, you as the person who reported it, there's no transparency as to what the next steps are or what was taken, like what happened, what was the consequence. You never get that closure. And I don't know how you're supposed to have healing or have faith in a society when every time something comes up, there's never an ending. And then as well, too, it's kind of like there's always this silence. My dad used to tell me there's people who come to Canada and they cry. They suffer in silence because they want to live the Canadian dream. So, you know, just be mindful that a lot of people have struggles, but people, especially who come from different countries, who've gone through things, they shouldn't have to disclose their personal life story to you for you to afford them humility and humanity. So it all starts with the individual. As for the institutions, they need to update their policies, or they need to take complaints more seriously, because like it's only going to get worse when there's more people coming, when there's more diversity, you know, that wants to be celebrated and there's no space, or there's accommodations yet there's no dialogue about it, or, you know, people are assuming that it's special treatment for the newcomers when really it's human rights. It's their religion, it's their dignity. They have been given permission legally to be able to have access to their rights, and it's protected by law, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, the Charter of Laws and Freedoms give them that protection. So you talked a bit about the institutional level and the individual level, and I'm thinking just for a regular residents who are out in the street, they're in your supermarkets, they're in playgrounds, they're in, you know, the community. We don't want them to be bystanders either, because some people are around these incidents when they occur, but they don't seem to think it's their business at all, or they have, you know, any responsibility at all. So how can we reach, what do we need to say to them? How do we need to help them become, like you mentioned, accountable, or become responsible for these kinds of incidents?
For me, I've always been kind of a more hands-on type of person, but, you know, sometimes you stay back in the shadows, so to speak. But it's like, you know, sometimes just saying like, I heard you, or I heard what happened. Again, you don't have to make a big drama or scene about it, but just like, that was wrong, and I hope you're okay. Like some little vote of confidence, some little support, or if, you know, something criminal happened, stick around and give your testimony to the, you know, the police. You know, do something, be an advocate in whatever way you can. If you hear that a little kid was being bullied at school for, you know, English is their second language, or they wear different clothes, then don't just, you know, just let the school handle it. You should have a dialogue with your child about what this means. And if you don't know what it means, there's lots of resources, you know, in the community. We're in the day and age of like, you know, in the internet, there's lots of online resources, but always make sure that you find resources that are like a self-directed narrative. That is a person of that culture or of that, you know, circumstance who can speak to it with that lived experience. But yeah, it's just really like, you need to do something, anything. Just keeping quiet only enables the bad circumstance to grow and continue, and enables the person to think that they're getting away with it. And that's what needs to stop. And okay, it might not be overt and be a criminal charge, but the covert is what hurts the most.
I hear you. I hear your heart. And of course, Sharing Our Cultures has opened its doors to the Imagine Space Support Group for people who are victims of racism or discrimination or systemic or institutional barriers, to be able to find a place that's safe and caring and supportive. So thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Lloydetta. You've been a lifesaver in many ways.
My pleasure, always. And we're looking for a brighter future for you and your family here. Thank you. Sharing Our Cultures will be right back. Thanks to our guest Haley, and to you for watching. Join us again next time for more amazing individuals from around the world who are making significant contributions to our province. See you then.